So this has never, ever been done before to my knowledge here. It's like, guys, we got like the Godfather. It's the meeting of the three families. Like, I'm the consigliere. Like, we're here to talk. We got 13 state championships between the three of you guys. So thank you so much for joining us. We have so many topics to get to here today. And first of all, you guys are supposed to be enemies. Why are you on a call all together right now? You're enemies, right?
We are enemies.
No.
When we get to the court, we're enemies. But off the court, we're actually pretty cool. And that's why a lot of people, they would like for us to be enemies all around, but we're really not. We're not really enemies. We're actually pretty close. Some of these guys, we talk too much. You know, some of us talk too much.
Why do people think that you guys don't like each other?
Probably because we so competitive, you know, on the court. And I think they take that off the court as well. But that's not true at all. If you ever see us in the same building, we're normally around each other laughing and joking and talking about some stuff. But if you see us on the sidelines, you see us, you know, just competing basically.
Yeah, and that's what people want us to be enemies because we win, you know. So they try to knock us all down and make us against each other, you know. Honestly, when I'm not playing against them, I'm cheering for them, you know, at the end of the day, especially when we're on the road and, you know, out playing. Everybody want to see us lose anyway, you know, like so that's why I'm always on board with them.
Yeah, I think for me, I just want to get 6 championships like Rob. That's really the only thing I care about. Nothing else matters to me in my life. It's just getting me 6 championships. But I think really when you think about it and you look at high school basketball in the modern day era, it really is the 3 people that are on the screen. You know, you add in Curie to a large part. And, you know, Orr has done some things, but when people talk about basketball in Chicago, they start off with Simeon, Morgan Park, Whitney Young. And that doesn't mean that Whitney Young is going to be good that year. Simeon's going to be great that year. Morgan Park's going to be good. But the conversation always starts there. So I think like anything else, the one thing I always say to people is Whitney Young can't be good if Simeon's not good, if Morgan Park's not good. I mean, you have to have somebody to compete against, and those guys allow us to compete against them.
13 state championships. Can we tally them up here? Coach Rob Smith.
6.
Here we go. Rob with 6.
Nick Irvin. Morgan Park Mustangs. Shout out to the class of 1937. My grandma, Barbara Ruff. Morgan Park. You know about this? Did you guys hear about this? I went to the library and found my grandma in the yearbook at Morgan Park.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, Mike Berger took me into the library and I found her. She was in like the Glee Club and all this stuff. Anyway, shout out to the class of 37. Nick, you got 4. Ty Slaughter, 3 championships. Boom. That's a lot. That's still a lot.
Yeah.
Especially compared to those who have 0.
You're right.
I think about all the great coaches, you know, that have 0 state championships. It's amazing.
Yeah.
And they've been coaching for a long time.
All right, so one question I have for you guys is, how did you end up at your individual school, and how is it a different job than when you took over?
Well, I'll go first. Pretty much, I was coaching at Curie, and we actually happened to beat Simeon in the Southmore City Championship. And then Coach Hambrick just asked me to come back and help him and possibly be able to take over the program when he was done. So that's pretty much how I ended up at Simeon. I was at Curie first, and Coach Mike Oliver actually started me to coaching.
And how about just the dynamic? You know, it's fascinating. I'm doing a research project right now. It's more than 75 pages. It's called All Time 5. And I'm basically putting together the best possible roster at every high school here in Central Illinois, and then eventually I'm hoping to expand it to Chicago. But one of the big kind of learning moments I've had is that the dynamics of schools change drastically. For example, King moving to more of a magnet school, that drastically changed that basketball program. You have other schools like, you know, Manly that were once these basketball powers, you know, 81 state champions, I believe. And then that changed. How is it a different, how has the Simeon academic side changed in your time there? And how has that affected your ability to get players, et cetera, et cetera?
Well, it actually got better, which was good. it actually got better. We became a school of application. So it's no longer you can just come into the school. So you have to meet certain criteria to even get in. So it actually got better, and it kind of helped with, people want to send their kids there because the academics got better. Of course, we're not a Whitney Young or a Morgan Park, but academic-wise, but we're right there with some of the other better schools in the city of Chicago.
And then how about, what was the snowball effect of having a humongous name like Derrick Rose come through? Every 10 years there's this humongous name coming through. Did you see an uptick, what's the echo effect of having some of these superstar guys? Does that make your job easier?
To a certain extent, because people want to follow in their footsteps. And you have some people think they're going to be the next Derrick Rose or Jabari Parker or Kendrick Nunn. So you have a lot that just try to follow in that footsteps. Sometimes that's good. Sometimes it's bad, but just by having them in the program, I think it kind of helped out a lot.
All right, Coach Ty Slaughter, what was the job like when you took it over? How was it different inside and out?
Well, for me, my role is a little different than, say, Nick and or Rob. I actually was coaching at AAU when I first started at Whitney Young. I went there because the head coach at the time, Lamont Bryant, asked me if I would come and coach the sophomore team. And so I did that my first year. I won a city championship. We beat Simeon at the United Center for the city championship. Rob remembers that. 20-some thousand people there that night. The second year, we wound up losing in the Elite Eight, and then I was fired. I was fired after my second year. And I was gone for like 2 years. I came back under the new coach who replaced the coach who had fired me. And I was a sophomore coach for 2 more years. And then he elected to do some things in business. And they asked me if I would take over the program. And I was both honored and really kind of nervous because I'd never coached in high school like some of these guys. I'd never played basketball, so I didn't really understand that whole dynamic. But I did do AAU, so I had a feel for what players were like and what it was like. So for me, it's changed. It's changed in a large way. I think when you look at Whitney Young, we are one of the selective enrollment schools. We look at an environment where it's test-based admissions. Mm-hmm. So everything is done based on test scores.
Quinn Richardson said, "I went to the nerd school" in his big article that he did last year.
Who said that?
Quinn Richardson said that.
Yeah, but he wasn't a big nerd. I can tell you that. Yeah, he was just big. But it's really kind of been the same for us. The student athletes that we get are good students. They're good. They're not always the top athletes in the city or the state. We were fortunate in that we have had some really good players, but we've had a lot of guys that just play basketball, go on to college. I was watching the news just the other night, and one of our former players, Garth Walker, who went off to college, and now he's a emergency room doctor. They had him on an interview talking about the coronavirus. So it's changed, but it's only been gradual. It hasn't been a catastrophic change for us, not in that sense, because the standards have pretty much been the same from an academic and admission standpoint.
And how about you? What's been the superstar effect in your experience? One, Jay Okafor goes off, becomes a national brand. Did you see an uptick there? Because it's always like, every school that makes the Final Four, they see their applications go up, 25%. Did you feel that kind of echo?
Well, I tell you, one of the things I know that it does is it gives us a level of notoriety and a level of respectability in the sense that you can have a player of that magnitude that plays at a school, like he says, where nerds go. It makes basketball at least a little more appealing to the real basketball player, and thus it allows them to want to look at Whitney Young as a possible choice. I think, as Rob said, and as I'm sure Nick will say ultimately, wherever you have one good player, all good players want to follow. A lot of time kids look at how, say, Jabari played, and they say, man, I can play like that. And if I go to a place like Simeon, they're going to allow me to play like that. If Adam Miller or a kid sees, Adam Miller or Charlie Moore, they say, I want to go there because how they allowed him to play. And I think the same bodes well for us. And I think that would be great program. A lot of times the parents and the students are looking into these programs and they're seeing where they fit in the program and how they fit. And it always helps when you've got a kid that's signing going to Duke, So it has been positive for our program.
All right, Nick, what was the job like when you took over? big brand in the 70s, guys like Levi going to Champaign. Then maybe there's a little bit of a dip there for a while with that program. What was the state of the Morgan Park program when you took over, and how is that a different job than it is now?
Well, first off, when I took over the program, it wasn't that good. They was at the bottom of everything, basically. And, I knew it'd be tough going in, and I knew I had to, make a few changes to get it up to where, Rob Smith was and Tyrone Slaughter was. So I had to make some changes and make some adjustments to help build the program around. And, if it weren't for my father, I probably wouldn't even be at Morgan Park, because we was in the living room one day and, he told me Morgan Park job came open, and I was like, I want to coach high school, Pops. I'm just going to stick to the AAU side of it. And,
really? So you said no initially?
Oh, yeah. I didn't want to do it because I was traveling. I was traveling a lot and doing a lot of number of things, making money. And so when it came up, and I was a little hesitant of doing it, but Pops made me do it, and I'm glad he actually helped me make my decision.
So what's been the effect like you as you build up that program? And at the end of the day, you can get a greater product than the sum of your parts, but ultimately it's about having the best parts. And your parts are starting to get really, really, really good. Maybe with Wayne Blackshear beginning that wave, and then you got the Charlie Moores, Billy Garrett's, those guys. And now recently, what was it, 2 of the past 4 Mr. Basketballs now? You've got Charlie and Adam Miller, and then Io DeSumo in the middle. Yeah. What's been the superstar effect like for you? Do you have more kids sliding into DMs asking you to come play?
Well, I mean, like Rob said and Ty said, if you got them good players that's producing and playing at a high level, the next kid want to follow. It's really tough for us because we can't recruit players and try to go out and get them, So, we got to take really what we get. And hopefully the guy that's the dude that year pans out and everybody like him, man. Wayne Blackshear, coaching Wayne Blackshear, and then led to Billy Garrett, then it led to, Charlie Moore, then it just keeps going on, and now I ended with Marcus and Adam. So, hopefully the next one will be that good like them. But at the end of the day, they was high character kids. And when you got high character kids, they tend to listen more.
All right, so guys, I want to do something a little bit different here. I'm dying to know, because you know each other intimately, and every person, whether you're a coach, especially if you're a coach, media person, teacher, there's some element of your story that's misunderstood. And I want to know what's one misunderstood thing about somebody else in this room right now. And anybody can say anything about somebody else, but I want each of you to pick one other person and say, that's a really misunderstood part about their story or their personality.
Well, I go with Rob because, when I first came in and coaching in high school, everybody was always, a little upset because he win everything. He think everything is everything goes towards Simeon way and for Simeon, and it ain't like that. It ain't like that. I think people get the wrong misperception of him because he don't talk to everybody. He if you get to know him, he'll open up to you and talk to you. But, when I first, I'm like, maybe he like that. But once you get around him and get to know him, and, the perception is gone with me. And I tell everybody that he for every kid out here in the city of Chicago. He'll do anything for him, man. And that's one thing I love about him.
Coach Ty, do you want to go next?
Yeah, I'll chime in. I think I'll talk about Nick. I think a lot of people around, not a lot of people, but some people, and these people are people that I don't really value. I think sometimes they like to believe that Nick is a cheerleader, and that's all he is. And what I'll tell people is Nick is much younger than me, so he has a lot more energy than me, so he can cheer. But Nick is actually a really, really good basketball coach. I tell anybody, I watch what they do. He gets his teams to play hard. He gets his team to play for him. He gets his team to play with each other, and they're always well prepared. And the one thing that you can always say when you play a Nick Irvin coach team is they're going to run a lob play out of the timeout. You know that they're running a lob play out of the timeout.
I went to New Trier, so we could do that every like 4 years. All right, Rob, let's hear it.
So I'm gonna do both of them. I'm gonna do both.
Okay, I like it.
I'm gonna start with Ty first because me and him kind of started together at the same time, pretty much, and then he had a timeout, and he ended up coaching some of the Simeon players. So people have a misconception of him on who he is as a person. I think all three of us kind of got the same kind of ways a little bit where we don't talk to a lot of people. So we all get this arrogant kind of way that people think that we're all arrogant and, we just look out for our own people and we don't talk to people very much. But like Nick said, once you get to know us, we're a totally different group of people. And we're just for basketball. And we love basketball so much that we want it to be the best. So, a lot of people, they have a hard time approaching Coach Ty. And, a lot of times now people will call me and say, hey, can you do this with Coach Ty? And I'm like, you could just call him. He's not that type of guy. But it's just the fact that they don't know him. And they don't know any of us because we have our own separate crowd. And we kind of stick to that crowd and keep it that way. And now since Nick has been in the Chicago League Classic with us all the time. We talk to him about that. Him and Ty's been out on trips together. And then me and Nick talk socially a lot. So it's kind of different once you get to know him. And then, of course, what Coach Ty said, a lot of people don't give Coach Nick a lot of credit. They think it's more of a just roll out the basketball and guys go play type of thing. But that's far from it. Coach Ty and myself both know when we have to play him, it's definitely a lot of preparation and trying to figure out how we're going to beat him. And I don't think a lot of people get that. I don't think people give him enough respect for what he does as a coach. And that could be all three of us just because we have, unquote, some of the best players. I don't think we get enough credit on what we do and how we organize our programs and how we have to manage those great players. I don't think we get enough recognition for that. But, it's not easy, having to get ready to scout a Morgan Park game or a Whitney Young game. It's just not an easy thing. It's very difficult and it's time consuming. It really is.
And for Ty, people always say, "Man, Nick, y'all could beat him. Ty can't coach," and I'd be really, looking at them like they crazy, because, I know people got talent and can't coach it, and he could coach talent, and he the thing he do, he like me, like he said, if he was a little bit younger, he'd be running up and down the sideline like I was, But one thing that both of them do. They get a player's confidence. Rob's system, he win. He won state championship. Ty system, they win state championship. So we're doing something right. And that's what I try to explain to people when they say, oh, man, their style is this and style is that. At the end of the day, they're effective with that style. So you can't say nothing. They winners. And that's the thing I love about them, too, because they like me. They don't care what you say about them. They're going to do what they do anyway.
Sure, right.
And I guess because we kind of hit on everybody, I'll talk about Rob. Rob and I, like you said, we kind of started at the same time. And many people don't know, we had a kind of frosty relationship at the very beginning of our careers. And I think it was kind of frosty. And I think a large part of it was our youthfulness and our competitiveness. I was trying to get where he was, and he was trying to stay where he was, and so we didn't do it. But then we started to travel, and we started to travel together, and then we started the Chicago League Classic together. When we did that, nobody believed that could happen. They just the city was just completely befuddled that these two guys have come together and put this event on. And what I tell people when I talk to them all the time is because you don't hear Rob saying a lot out unless he's in his group. I tell people all the time, he's probably as smart a guy as I've been around. And I'm not talking about just from a basketball standpoint. He kind of lulls you to sleep with that calm demeanor. But when we're strategizing and talking about things for the Classic, I have an opportunity to see him in a way that everybody else doesn't. And I tell people all the time, that son of a gun is pretty goddamn smart, and it shows up. And it shows up, but it also shows up in how he carries his team. Nick, a guy who, like we said, everyone thinks that these three guys should never, ever be together. Oh, my God, they should never talk. And what they don't recognize is that we talk a lot of times about stuff that no one knows about. For instance, Rob, I beat him. I'm talking to him 3 hours later. He beats me. I'm talking to him 3 hours later. We're talking about what he did and why we didn't do this, or you shouldn't have done that. Because again, the game is over. The game is over. You know. So again, I think both of these guys, and just to kind of piggyback, and this is what I'll tell anybody that watches. All of those people out there that say that we win simply because we have talent, I promise you, if they were fortunate to have that talent, they would be happy to coach them also. There's not a coach living that says, you keep all the talented players and give me all the bums and I'll enjoy that. I mean, so I don't, it never bothers me. It never bothers me, so.
Well, I've been to one of your opening day practices, and the very first thing you did on a team with 3 or 4 D1 kids was defense. I didn't see you guys didn't touch the ball for the first hour of the first practice of the year. I've seen that with my own 2 eyes. So, I mean, anybody that says that you've just got, talented players, I think hasn't seen you do your craft. One thing I do want to ask you, and this is by no means me trying to stir the pot here, because this is not about controversy. I really think that we have a chance to equip young people in the area of conflict resolution. A lot of people can say, oh, those guys got together. I thought that they were sour over individual incidents, because we're all human beings here. You guys have had conflicts each other. Some people might bring up the Taylor Horton Tucker situation, or, as misunderstood as that was. I'm curious to know, what was the playbook? When you guys have had individual spats, disagreements, what were some strategies you could give us for how you process through those? And you can be as specific or as unspecific as you want, but how?
I think that's pretty much for the guys on Vincennes.
Let's hear it.
Pretty much it's our competitive nature. We've only had those things on the court. We've never had it off the court. And when the game is over, we go back to being men. Of course, we're out there trying to win. And definitely neither one of them want to lose to me. And I definitely don't want to lose to neither one of them. So it's not the fact of it, anything that's personal. It's just in the moment. So if anything have occurred, we always talk to each other. I mean, the Taylor Horton Tucker thing, me and Nick talked about it. It don't have nothing to do with him. He's not the coach. He don't make those decisions. So, I mean, we just was letting each other know how we felt about the situation. But it wasn't a big thing to us at all, because it didn't have nothing to do with neither one of us, really. But people wanted to make it a big thing, and it wasn't like that. And that's a lot of the stuff that go on. People want to make it a big thing and see how we're going to feed into it. And that's not how we carry ourselves. Neither one of us, or Coach Ty either. We're not going to take something like that and affect our friendship or the way we approach our everyday life. That's just not going to happen.
So it sounds like you're saying it's just a matter of exchanging information. I'm curious to know, what's the playbook? Like, if, say, one of you's upset with the other one or something, I mean, do you call and just say, hey, I just want to talk about this so we're on the same page? Is that the kind of language that you use in those tense moments?
It may not be that language.
I don't think we really. I mean, I don't see an instance where we really needed to do that. I haven't anyway. I haven't got to where we needed to do that. Go ahead, Nick.
No, we never had no problem like that. Our problem just be when we play each other, we just want to beat each other. But just like, when Ty beat me, Ty would beat me so much. I call him congratulate him. When Ryan beat me, I call him congratulate him. Like, I won a few times, they call him congratulate me. So, we don't have beef with each other. Well, you call, look, man, this was messed up. Actually, if we hear a guy about to transfer, hey, man, somebody trying to transfer over here, man. What you think? That's how we roll. But with the Taylor Horton Tucker and Io thing, if you notice, neither one of us said anything about it to the media at all. Because at the end of the day, I blame the media, because the media try to put kids against each other, like Io and Taylor, and then Adam and DJ. And we always be the first one to say, if the media push these kids together and collectively, it'd be fine. but they always try to turn kids against one another, especially, when they good. Like at the end of the day, all four of them kids was really good. And I was the first one to say that. If somebody asks me, I'm the first one to tell them, like, no, they good. They ball good. Let's push them all together. Why just keep pushing one for McDonald's? Everybody got a chance to be McDonald's. Let them be it, especially from Chicago if you're from here. And I think the media and the people around them create that controversy.
There you go. Coach Ty, do you have any thoughts on that?
I really don't. I don't have much more to put in other than the only thing I'll say is that a lot of times, a lot of the things that are perceived outside of the coaches and the programs is what a lot of the people want to be, what people believe it to be. But deep down inside, they really don't know what it is. And so from a personal standpoint, not one of these African-American coaches that are here are enemies. We're not. And I'll tell people all the time, I enjoy when the Battle of Vincennes takes place because it's an opportunity for me just to sit back and read some of the most electrifying comments you've ever heard in your life. I mean, I become a fan of the Battle of Vincennes, and I tell Rob all the time. And it was so funny. And this is when we were getting ready to play Morgan Park this year at the beginning of the year. I said, "Shoot, I now see how you must feel when it's time to play Nick and those guys every year." It is just it's next level. So I think when people see that, they take it as, oh, they don't like them. Well, we don't like them for the purpose of winning the game, but it's not personal. It's not personal. I don't think since I played Simeon and I played them 100 times, I don't think our kids have ever had an issue on the court, mostly because they were beating us so bad we can't fight. Then if it was Morgan Park, I don't think our kids have really ever had an instance on the floor this year. We played. DJ got his lip busted. It was a basketball play. The game goes on. Again, game ends. Our kids, they embrace each other. They go on. But at the end of it, our kids don't have the same rivalry that you have on Vincennes. And I'll tell you, that's as good as it gets in high school basketball in Chicago. And I was talking with someone today. It would be great. It would be great if if we had more rivalries like that. And we just don't. We just don't. And these two young men at the bottom of the screen, they show what rivalry can look like. You can compete hard on the court and still be cordial off the court. So I'm proud of them. I just, like I said, I'm just honored to be in the same conversation with these guys.
So I don't know if you want to transition to this now, but one of the biggest topics right now is diversity in college basketball in particular. And Coach Ty, I know that this is a issue near and dear to your heart. As three of the highest ranking, high school coaches in the region, if not the country, what are your thoughts on the hiring practices and what are the issues in college basketball right now as far as diversity and coaching staffs?
How long do I have?
I have Zoom Premium, so we could go all day.
Okay, well, good. I'm not gonna go all day, but I'm gonna give you my overview. This doesn't have to be anybody else's. I think you said the diversity. Let's try the lack thereof. Yeah. When you look at a sport where the top 10% of the best players are players of color, but then you look at the sheer number of African American coaches, it's appalling. When you look at the Big Ten, minus Juwan Howard, who is a new coach, there were no black African American coaches at the head of those programs. When you look at a state like Illinois with all of the Division I programs that we have, and not disrespectful, but I'm going to leave Chicago State out of the mix, okay, for the purpose of this conversation. But we look at the Division I colleges, look at them and look at their rosters and look at the players that are at the top of those rosters. We now have 3 African Americans with a hire of a coach down in Western Illinois. So we have 3. But more importantly, and this is the thing that I always have the problem with, how come high school coaches, guys like Rob and Nick, can't have an opportunity to coach in the college level? You're telling me that Rob can win 6A championship, turn out Division I player after Division I player after Division I player, and not get multiple opportunities? We know that there was a tacit one before, but there should be multiple opportunities for him to join the staff. And I'll just tell you like this, and this is what, and I believe it. When we look at Coach Yankovic at UIC, he was a high school coach. He coached in a substandard league. Let's keep it real. He didn't come out of there with an above average winning record, but he was fortunate enough that his friend, who was a white man, and that's nothing against him, he saw enough in him to allow him to come and join his staff. And then what did Luke say when he did his article in the paper? He said the game was moving really, really fast. But what did his friend tell him? Just hang on, you'll get it. You're telling me that Nick Irvin can't go to someone's college and understand how to be a Division I college basketball coach? We have a multitude of young people, young gifted coaches in this city. I'm not one of them, that should be at least bought into the process to be asked about jobs. We don't even get interviews. We don't even get the opportunity to get interviews. When you look around college basketball and you look at the sheer number of white coaches that came from the high school level, there are a large number of them in relation to those of us that are African American. And so for me, my position is very simple. I can't tell any administration who to hire, would never do that. But what I should be able to say to them is, how can you continue to recruit the kids that look like me that I can coach, but you can never talk to me about the potential of coaching that kid at the next level? I think our time has come. We need to have a much more robust conversation about minority hiring in college, especially the revenue-generating sports. And I won't even go into football because that's not my wheelhouse, but I will talk about college basketball. And I'm going to say this, then I'm going to end. You look, we probably have more women coaching in the NBA, and they're getting more opportunities in the NBA than do black high school coaches to coach in college. Something is fundamentally wrong with that. Something is wrong with that. We need a Rooney Rule in college basketball. And nobody says anything about it. We just kind of take it as it is. But the same coaches that come to our gyms year after year, talk to us year after year, they never talk to us about the possibility of being a college basketball coach. At some point, we've got to say enough is enough. That's my position. And I can still go on and on, but that's where I am.
That's so. And I done heard that speech a million times now. So.
Right.
Every time there's a new hire, I get the phone call.
I mean, but again, let me say this,
yeah,
Gordon. Could you imagine? I put this out in one of my tweets. Could you imagine if they were hiring black coaches to coach hockey teams? That would be an uprising.
Interesting.
And again, this is not racial. It's just a fact.
Right.
It would be an uprising.
It should be reflective of, it should be a representation of the group of people that it's serving.
Or at least let us get in the process.
Yeah.
When you can tell me that we have a black coach, he fails. So is he done? He never gets another chance? But then we look at Gillespie and we look at all these other coaches. How many times do they get to fail but keep getting jobs? Now, Beeline they're clamoring to get him back on the sideline. He failed miserably in the NBA, And again, that's okay. And I'm not saying he's not a good basketball coach, but we have black coaches who they fail or they stumble, they never get back. We look at a guy like Jarris Howard. Let's say Jarris Howard. Jarris Howard has played and coached under at least 4 Hall of Fame coaches. Why is he not a head coach? Something is wrong with that pitcher. And UIC does not even get an interview. Something is wrong with that pitcher. Again, that's just me. I could go on and on, but I'm not going to announce the
Hey, that's why we're here.
He got a premium Zoom.
Like I said, I looked it up. They said I got the Ty Slaughter premium package.
Okay, well, great.
So that's really interesting for me to hear because I think the perception is that you are getting interviewed and asked and that you don't want to. I'm not saying that that's what I believe, but I think that if I were to poll, my friends or neighbors or whoever, that they would say, maybe they didn't want it.
Would your neighbors be white? And that's not a trick question. That's not a trick question.
Yeah, no, I've got fairly diverse.
See, Gordon, and again, I think that becomes kind of the problem for me, is that we get caught in these cocoons and we only know what we know. And if no one says anything, we can say, oh, we didn't know, or we can act like we didn't know. Then you look at the search firms that do the searches for the universities, they're white. And so their clients, or a lot of their clients are white. So who are you going to push? And again, I got it. All I'm saying is that as high school coaches, and we've got some really, really good ones, not just in Chicago, but all over this country that don't have opportunities, where other factors they do. They do. And if you look at it, why do you get a job? You get a job because you know someone And it's not that you know them and you're not good, but you know them and they like you. But if we never get into college, if we never get in the rooms where the people that make the decisions to hire are, then people view, just like you said, well, maybe they don't want it. Maybe they don't want it, you know. But I would venture to tell you, if you said to Nick Irvin, would you like to coach in college in Illinois somewhere? He'd probably say yes. Rob probably would say yes. Well, not because his son and daughter are getting to play now. He won't, because his daughter's going to be a superstar. So he's going to try to ride her coattails. But these guys would want to coach in college. We got a lot of guys in Chicago that would want to, but a lot of them are beaten down and they're discouraged because they've never been asked. No one's ever opened that door, period.
Coach Smith, you've been awful quiet here. Can you corroborate this story here?
Hey, I'm just following Ty's lead on it. That's all. I mean, it's eye-opening, and he kind of brought it to my light. And I kind of seen it, but didn't really pay huge attention to it. But he kind of brought it to my light when he, as we talking about it, and he's, he's really, into it, and he's researching things, and he's looking and checking it out. But I mean, what he said about Jerence Howard is definitely totally correct. It's no way that a guy like that, who is a high-quality guy, shouldn't have a job. Mm-hmm. And if it's not, I mean, all the schools in Illinois that jobs came open should have at least reached out to him. He shouldn't even have to reach out to them. He does a great job of where he at. He understands the game. And then I think a lot of times we get mixed up and just say, well, you only can recruit. And that's been my battle of attempting to try to go further with doing it. I'm a coach. I'm not a recruiter. I know the game of basketball. I know how to coach the game of basketball. I'm not a recruiter. Mm-hmm. I can sit down and talk with the best of them and do X's and O's with the best of them and have strategies. I mean, these guys are college coaches as well. So when I'm getting prepared for a Morgan Park game, I just can't come home and go to sleep and then wake up and say, this is how we're going to do it. I have to watch film. I have to break stuff down. Same thing with Whitney Young. It's just not that easy. So we're doing those type of things right now. But a lot of times we just get placed in the fact of you're a recruiter, and
which is insulting.
Some opportunities have came my way, and just doing some of those conversations, it was how are you going to be with coaches from this area? So you only getting me to recruit. You didn't ask me what I know about the game of basketball. What's my philosophy of basketball? What's my nothing? You want to know how you going to be with the AAU coaches. How are you going to be with the other high school coaches in Illinois because you were winning and, you had some kids who transferred to your school. How's that going to go? Nothing about basketball. It was all about me recruiting, and I'm not a recruiter. That's not my thing. I'm a coach. So I think, if that's what you want to do, some guys want to be recruiters and they want to get in that, but for you to sit down with some people and they never talk to you about basketball, they only talk to you about recruiting, that's what you are. You're not a coach. You're a recruiter. So why go do that if you want to be a coach? Some people want to be recruiters. They do. And that's fine. If I get that opportunity, I want to be a coach. I don't want to be just a recruiter. And I know everybody has to go out and recruit. I get that. And I have relationships with people, but just don't sit me down and talk about recruiting. That's not going to work for me.
Nick, your thoughts?
Well, I think both of them touched on everything. Ty always, he the guy that always understand and do his research to everything, and he always bring to my attention, and I always read his tweets. I read his tweets all the time, and and then just like Rob said, I'm a coach. I can recruit. That's the easy part. That's the easy part, recruiting. But at the end of the day, I mean, we ain't won like championships. So, my X's and O's are pretty good. Like we gotta, come up with a game plan against each other. Like if you want to win, you know what I'm saying? If you want to win and put the guys in a good situation, you want to win. So you got to strategize and do a number of things. And, it's a lot of great coaches in the public league. There's a lot of great coaches around the country that's really good coaches. And, I always really was, ask myself, like, why, Rob Smith or Ty, if they win on this level, why they can't go be head coaches? why they can't go start a program, why they got to start as assistant coach, but it's a stepping stone to everything. You got to start somewhere in the business, and I get that part and understand that part. And, if that time come and present itself, I'll take a look at it and, put everything in God's hands. But at the same time, I just want to coach. I love coaching. I love being around the guys and, helping them get better. That's what I love to do. Just going around, just, recruiting, which is good. I like that too. But at the end of the day, I want – I love coaching, So, I mean, that's my take on it.
Yeah, so another thing. So a friend of mine who had won 6 state championships in Atlanta, and a job came open. He applied for the Georgia Tech job and as assistant, and he didn't get it. But the athletic director at Georgia Tech knew the athletic director at Georgia Southern. So he told him, hey, you probably should get this young man because he would be good for your program. We're going to go with another coach or whatever. So they ended up hiring him. And at the time that he was hired, he thought that, hey, I'm about to go and be a coach. I'm about to be coaching. So when he got the job, it was pretty much like, hey, all the people in Atlanta. All the people in Atlanta. All these different people. You're going to be the head person to recruit these kids in this area. So his thing was like, man, that ain't what I do. I coach. I done won 6 state championships. I coach USA basketball. I didn't coach the McDonald's game. I didn't coach the Jordan game. And now you sticking me in this box to just go and recruit. How does this get me better to be a head coach one day? So he did that job for 2 years, and then he came back to high school, and he said, Rob, this is nothing better than being a high school coach. He said, you can go in there. He said, the money is good and all of that. But he said, it's nothing better than being a high school coach.
And Gordon, and I want to say this, and again, the thing that both of these guys know about me is I don't have a problem with saying what I think. I really don't care. I really don't care how people think about it, but I have to be honest. I know that both of these guys, I know Nick has had a phenomenal run in the AAU world. Rob has traveled all around this country playing, and they've beaten some really good teams, some outstanding players, some great coaches. They've done all of that. Why is it that when we win, that's where you're supposed to win? But we have a whole nother segment of our coaches. And again, I love all of our coaches. It's not a negative. But when they play close, those are well-coached teams. Oh, my God, they're so well-coached. But our teams, we have to be athletic. We have to be, they just have so much talent. It is incredibly difficult to take our teams out and play anybody without getting their best shot, okay? And so not just coaching a play here or there, we have to coach all of that. How we get to the game. You look at guys in the city, look at the circumstances in which we coach our kids on, okay? We were in the midst of a strike at the beginning of the year. We coach for the least pay of any coaches in our state. We have some of the worst facilities, unfortunately. Okay, we work on some of the most stringent of rules. We're most microscopically viewed of any coaches in the entire state, and yet we continue to win. That has a lot to do with coaching. You have to be able to keep that together, and yet we cannot get at least a third or fourth assistant job. Our young coaches never even get an interview. At some point, we have to call a spade, pardon the pun. We have to be honest with ourselves, and we have to say there is something systemically wrong, and it's not just here in Illinois, but I talk about Illinois because that's where I am. But it's a problem across this country. You look at the best players, 99.9% of them play for white head coaches. Something is wrong with that.
So I think what we need to do is make you the athletic director and change it. Is that what this is? This is you launching into the campaign. Let's do it.
And there's another part right there. The athletic directors, those guys who make those decisions, all of that. But it's the same in corporate America. I mean, the cycle is kind of repetitive and going. And this is not a black-white thing. It's just a factual thing. It's just like you look at the coronavirus. Why do we have more African Americans that are dying than our other ethnicities? Why? Because we have access to the worst healthcare of any group of people. Same applies for us as coaches. We have the worst access to jobs. We don't get them. We don't get them. Like I said, and the reason that I'm so fired up about this is because I'm 55. I don't desire to coach in college. I'm too old for that. Okay, but I have an obligation to at least be a voice for all of those young coaches who can't get on your show. Okay, because you don't know who they are for whatever reason. That's fine. Or can't on any other show. Nobody will hear them. They might hear me and they'll still dislike me. And they'll say, oh, man, he thinks he's better than everybody else. No, I don't. I'm fighting for everybody else. I'm not fighting for me. This is not for me. This is not for me. It's for all those young guys. And Rob is getting close to not being a young guy, so I'm kind of fighting for him. But all those young guys who deserve a right to coach in college, or at least be given an opportunity. That's all I'm saying.
There's a danger of, anytime you mention names, then the person that you don't mention says, what about me? You're sleeping on me. Fine, we're going to forget about that. But who are some names that you would like to see, people that you think have the potential to be great college coaches that are in Chicago right now?
Do you want me to send you my list? I've got it. I'm trying to get to it. Because I'm actually trying to put together.
No disrespect to anybody that's not mentioned. That's not what this is about. This is just a few names that pop up.
So my you saying a list of guys that's in Chicago, or a list of guys that we know who we think who are maybe college coaches who should be getting those? Some of the guys I'm talking about, I think they need to get an opportunity to be a head coach.
Oh,
I think they paid their dues of constantly being assistant coach. I was so happy that Dennis Gates was able to get a head coaching job. I mean, even though he worked for Leonard Hamilton, but I was just so happy he was able to get a head coach. He paid his dues to doing that. I mean, you look at somebody like Parrish Parham. He paid his dues of doing it. Jerence Howard, he paid his dues of doing it. Tracy Webster, before he got out of the game, he paid his way to those guys. But paid the weight of doing it already and didn't get the opportunity to be a head coach. Them are the guys I'm personally. Now, we got some young guys. Nick is, Ty said it, my kids is more important than anything that's going on right now. So to going and chasing a college job, it's not what I want to do anymore. It's on the record. I don't want to be a college coach anymore. That's out. It's over with. But somebody like Nick, who is still young and feisty and out there, he needs to be able to get an opportunity to do those things. And we have some other young coaches that may not come off the top of my head right now, but I know for a fact, since he's on this call with us, he is definitely one who needs that opportunity. And I'm saying, I don't think if he gets the job, and he does, like he said, he can recruit. I get that. But I think he needs to get a job where he's going to be a coach, and he's going to be valued as an asset to the program, and not just because he can go inside of Inglewood and get some kids that other people cannot go in Inglewood and get. And that's the other side of it. So I just think that he deserves the opportunity. Just give him a chance.
So just think about this. What about, let's just say, because he's on here, let's say Nick, he's a great recruiter and he can recruit. Do you think he's going to do you think he's going to do a bad job of recruiting when he becomes a head coach? You think the job is going to get bad then when he becomes a head coach? He's going to be a great recruiter that's coaching.
Oh, I forgot.
Yeah, he's going to coach better. He's going to recruit better. And I think, again, Gordon, and I'll send it over to you. I've actually started compiling a list. Because one of the things that I've learned is when we start saying, well, we should have more guys, they say, well, who are they? Okay, here's a list. And these are some young guys that they're not ready to be head coaches at college, but they can be the third assistant. They can be the op guy and learn the job. Look at Luke. Luke was a fourth assistant, and he's a head coach now. He's a head coach now. He was a defensive genius at Michigan. He was a defensive genius. That's what his claim, because he knew how to coach defense. Mm-hmm. So you're telling me these guys, that's all we're saying is that, and I agree with Rob, we coach, all of us have coached around this country, be it AAU or high school. There's some black guys that I know that are walking those sidelines that are as ready to be #1 assistants or potentially head coaches at small Division I colleges as anybody. All we need are opportunities. Dennis Gates, he took over a program that was completely shuttered when he got there. No players, nothing. And all he did was made them respectable. Now, they didn't win a large amount of games, but they were respectable. I mean, we have to give people an opportunity to do what they can do. We have to give them an opportunity. if we don't have an opportunity, then all we're left to say is, well, we don't know if we have anybody. Yeah, we don't know if we have anybody because you're not actively trying to find anybody to be able to hire. And for me, as long as there's breath in my body and I still have my characters on Twitter, I'm going to keep this fight going. Nobody may follow it, nobody may do it, but at least when my time is up, here, I will have it said that, you know what, he did at least champion our cause. Because one day somebody's going to wake up and say, this is a problem. This is a problem. This is a problem. That in 2020, we have less black head coaches, than we had in 2006.
Wow.
Something is wrong with that.
That's crazy to hear. I mean, that there's been negative progress in that area. I would love to. I think you definitely, I don't, to the extent that you're willing to publish that list, I think.
Well, Gordon, I think you and Ty need to have a show on live, like go live. So everybody could see it, and then Rob be in the background,
they'll run Gordon off airwaves as he goes live with me.
No, and I mean this, that you three, you're not coaches, you're on a pulpit. You've been given a platform to help your communities, and that's something that you do. And I think that you guys have been in it so long that, you forget that anything that you say is taken as truth, with a lot of people in basketball and media. And so I think that to the extent, again, that you're willing to publish that list, I think that would be extremely helpful. And I would really look forward to seeing those names because, if you apply your recommendation to those names, then I think that would really help get the ball rolling. And I know that you already are doing that and are such a good champion for it, but it'd be really cool to see more outlets talking about that issue for sure.
Hey, Gordon, I'm going to go on record saying this. If I ever get a head coaching job, Rob Smith and Tyrone Slaughter will be with me.
I'll be like the water boy because
they won't turn me down.
All right, here we go. Okay. Which program are you taking over? What style are you running?
It don't matter. See, I can do a little bit
think about this. Think about this. What kind of splash could some of these programs have made if they hired a Nick Irvin or Rob Smith as their head coach? What kind of a splash could you really have made? There's nobody that has greater grassroots representation than these guys do. But the problem is that not only do they not have grassroots representation, they have national reach. They can reach beyond the borders of Illinois. Right. I always look back at, again, because I'm older than all of you guys, I remember when Notre Dame, the pillar of college basketball, hired Gary Faust, a high school football coach, to run a football program. We're not talking about some small little team down in Indiana. We're talking about they worship at the altar of the Irishman. And they hired a high school coach. We have not seen any such creature like that with any African-American basketball coaches. Mm-hmm. And we've got a lot of guys out there who would do an outstanding job.
I'll tell you what, if you three took over a program, that would be big national headlines. That would definitely generate something. So
I would be the guy giving Nick the towel so he can wipe his head while he sweats.
Well, gentlemen, I've got, I think we need to have this one more meeting after this, if not 7. One thing I want to ask you, so Nick and I are going to hopefully be launching a podcast that the working title of which is Chicago Basketball Mysteries. Because ever since I was a little boy, opening up the Tribune every morning, there's something about Chicago high school basketball that has a special aura to it, a mystique. And part of that is that there's no other city has the same amount of ghost stories that our city does. And I mean that in a positive way, not just in a negative way. But there's an element of mystery. Why wasn't Patrick Beverly recruited until late? What's the story of how the 2 7-footers came to be at King? What kind of kid was Benji, they didn't talk about in the documentary. There's so many of these. Nick, did I not send you a list of about 40 ideas?
Yeah, you sent me a lot of them. And, you know, it's a lot of stories out here in Chicago that people need to hear.
That get overlooked, that are important, that tell the story of our city, that get no attention whatsoever. My question to you is, what's the one mysterious topic in the history of Chicago basketball that needs to be told?
That's a good question.
You know, I'm talking. It could be, why did Cassie Russell go to Harvard? You could go as far back as you want. Or why did Crane switch its academic profile and become a different type of anything. I'm just spitballing here.
Well, one of the things that I think all of us have actually thought about, whether or not we've actually thought about it, we thought about it, and because I'm there, is what happened to West Side basketball? Yeah, what happened to the Red West as a Marshall, a Crane?
Yeah.
What happened? Where did all those kids go? I mean, I think we've got some ideas, but I think when you think about it, when you look at it now, the Red South is the dominant league in our state. They weren't always the dominant league. They were a good league, but they weren't the dominant league. Mm-hmm. The Red West used to be the one place that you went when you wanted a dog fight. What happened to the Red West that we knew?
My friend Rafi Field is building Westinghouse back up, but he's got a long way to go because of the bar is so high there. That's another program that I think, I'd be curious to press through. Coach Rob, Coach Nick, do you have any thoughts? What's one mysterious topic that you think would be worthy of a separate podcast?
What happened to King High School?
Yeah, you took my answer. Yeah.
What happened at King High School?
Yeah.
I think that would be huge. That would be one of the biggest stories in Chicago history, just to see how they navigated from where they were at into where they are now, and that's athletically and academically.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
Yeah, I'm just saying, what happened? What's the transition for all of that? And that would be interesting. That would be a good storyline right there. What happened to King High School?
And did the decision makers at the time who flipped the mission of that school, did they know that they would be altering the course of basketball history? Was it intentional? Was it unintentional? I'd be curious to know if they knew it would have the same effect that it did.
Right. Yeah, I think that would be for that program to do what it's doing now, that'd be a cool story to just go back and try to figure it out, or see, like you said, what the administration, what was all behind that. Did they know that this was going to do this? Would they, was basketball becoming to be too much of king of the school period per se? And those two guys know if your administration is not on board with this stuff, then it doesn't work. It just doesn't work. If your administration is not on board with what you're doing in any of the sports, it doesn't work. So I was on a podcast the other day, and the guy asked me what has kept Simeon football, baseball, and basketball so successful over the years. Well, if you look back, it's only been 3 basketball coaches in Simeon history. There's only been 2 baseball coaches in Simeon history, and there's only been 3 football coaches. So you have
crazy.
A whole of change, of people changing over all the time. You look at some of these schools, you have a coach, and you have a coach 2 years, and then the next year you got another coach. Sometimes we don't even know who the coach is at some of the schools because it's so big of a turnover.
Right.
And the other side of it too, and Ty might be the only one between me and Nick, even with our administration turning over. I had a lot of turnover since I've been at Simeon administration-wise. Thank God that they all believed in me and what I've been doing, and the other coaches that were there. And I think Nick was the same way. I think he had some changeover in administration as well. So Ty's the only one who's had a consistent administration, which bags him and bags.
And when my administration turns over, I'm turning over.
Hey, get that on record and quote that one.
I even got the backup camera, so you're gonna
I think think that's huge when you're dealing with that. And what you said, like, did the administration or did people know what they were getting into when they changed King over? That's real important to know as well.
Here's the other question, Rob. Did they care?
Yeah,
Did they care? Did they care?
Yeah, that's true.
You know, those are questions I think, Gordon, I think another thing that you guys can look at, and I actually pitched this to somebody last week. Where are they now? There are a lot of people that people want to know where they are. Where are they right now? There are a lot of those guys out here that were phenomenal players that we haven't heard about, that didn't make it big, that should have made it big. What are they doing now? You know, I always tell people, one of the most incredible sights that I ever saw, and I was stunned, was once I was in a gym, like a AAU tournament, and someone said, "Is that?" I said, "Who? Is that Jamie?" I said, "Jamie who?" They said, "Jamie Brandon." I said, "I don't see him." He was refereeing.
Yeah.
You know,
I heard he refs.
yeah, he refs. You know, so again, he's just one. He's just one. But I think that's an interesting story. Where are these people? What are they doing? You know, that's
a great idea.
It's,
All your ideas I got on the notepad.
Yeah, Ryan, I ain't think about that one. That's a good one right there. And I think doing like Ty and Rob said, like where they at now. I think that'd be a good one. But I think we all should spearhead something. I think that'd probably be great too. If all of us could spearhead a little something and, you know, put something together, because, you know, Rob coached some great players, Ty coached some great players, I coached some great players, and I think people need to hear that. I think people need to hear that and understand about Chicago basketball and where it was and where it is now. You know, I think it's still in good hands. I think it's still in good hands with us around and being there for each other and trying to help the youth, trying to help everybody in general. Not even just the kids. You know, we hear Ty talking about getting helping, you know, coaches get college jobs. You know, we hear Rob trying to do the same thing. You know, like, so I think at the end of the day, we all need to come together and do something collectively. You know, just like when, you know, they was doing the Chicago Elite Classic, and, you know, a lot of people, no, don't play in that. And I said, no, I'm playing in it. You know, I told them I'm going to play in it for every year. I probably missed 1 year. But I told them I'm playing every year, and I've been doing that.
and
So the other side too is, you know, we have to understand, and this is a culture that me and Ty have been trying to get in. You know, people always say it like, you know, you guys are different, but we're in the same boat you are. You know, in the Chicago Public League basketball, we get the same pay you get. You know, we do everything the same. We have no different rules than anybody else. You know, so our position is that somebody has to lead this whole thing, like you saying, Nick. But we also got to have people to follow us.
Yes.
You know, and a lot of guys don't want to follow because they don't think it's going to be beneficial to them. Well, this whole thing can be beneficial to everybody if you're just willing to follow. It's not a one-sided thing. You know, me and Ty put Chicago Elite Classic together for Chicago. This wasn't about Simeon and Whitney Young. We have to be the face of it. But this is definitely about Chicago and trying to present and show people that we have some of the best basketball throughout the country. That's all it's for. I mean, we on calls right now about Chicago League Classic, trying to figure out what it's going to look like, how we're going to do it, what's going to happen. It's not a thing we just wake up in the morning and say, okay, let's go play. You know, we spend a lot of time, but we also thinking about the city when we're doing it. And our objective is, who we going to have in it this year? Do we need to bring in new teams? That Chicago team, well, they haven't never played. Let's try this team out. Let's do. I mean, it's certain things that we do, and people kind of think it's about us. But I mean, you know, we contact you all the time and say, hey, we want you to play, and your thing is, okay, I'm there. So that's not it. So we just need guys to think to come on board with us and try to follow. And I think this conversation with all three of us together can kind of change some people's mindsets on what's going on. And we may have to add in some couple people and then just start pushing more people. And then they can see that this is a full-time thing that we're trying to do. And it's not just one-sided. Like, we're going to benefit. I get no benefit from people playing in games. I don't get a benefit from that. I just want to help our kids, our youth, like you said, and make this a big thing in Chicago. Because we go all around the country planning these things.
Right.
You know,
right.
Why not have one in Chicago?
Yeah.
And I think,
go ahead, Ty.
I'm sorry, but I think that's important, Gordon. for all the misunderstanding that people have about all of us, for whatever degree it is, that's fine. We really love public league basketball. We do. None of us are successful if the other ones aren't successful. I mean, do you know what the Vincennes game would look like if Rob was garbage? That would be terrible. That would be nothing. No matter how bad our team is, Morgan Park still wants to beat us. I mean, it makes for a good thing for our city. Why did we come up last year? Me and Nick in the summer in an AAU tournament. His team was getting ready to play, and they were yelling real loud and screaming over in their little huddle, the fire. And I said to Nick, let's play next year to start the season. He said, okay. There was no contract written, but we thought it would be good for the city.
Right.
We didn't write a contract. I yelled at him while he was getting the team hyped, and he said, let's do it. And next thing you know, we did it. So it's about the city. It's about presenting our kids to the city to our kids. And it's about the long-term positive growth of Chicago Public League basketball. For all the negative things that they talk about, and there are many things they talk about, there's a hell of a lot more positive things going on in Chicago high school basketball than there are negative. I can promise you that.
And also, when me and Ty got it together, we didn't care about winning or losing. We just put it on for Chicago.
So, Rob know how it goes.
Yeah.
Just want to put a good show on for the people. And I just didn't want to get blown out. That's all. I don't want to get blown out.
Right. And they like, you crazy for playing him the first day of basketball. I said, listen, man, it ain't about that. It's about putting it on for the city of Chicago that we love.
Yeah.
And, and that's what we did. The
whole city, too. Nick, what would have happened if it weren't for basketball? Would we have ever, met? I don't know. Right. Now we're, close friends, and basketball is about so much more than just scores and rivals recruiting rankings. I mean, it's ultimately, like I said, it's your platform to serve your community, and it teaches so many deeper life lessons, and it brings people from all backgrounds together. And so why would I not want to support something like that? Why would you not want to support something like that? So, God bless all three of you guys, because you're fighting the good fight for us, which we appreciate. So, okay, we got Shot Clock, Bulls documentary. We got the schedule. I don't know if your wives are going to let us do this, but maybe next time we get together, those each could be different episodes here. But I just want to say thank you guys so much. Is there anything you'd like to add before we close here today?
Just for me, first of all, thanks for having all three of us together. Whoever idea this was, I think it was great.
Nick.
Very positive. And some people going to get some different sides of us, and they're going to be able to learn some different stuff about us, which is good, because we all are definitely in our own, of course, we all in our own houses now, but we do have a different circle of people that we're around. We do have a box that we're closed in, and we don't seem to let many people in it. So your interpretation of us is what it's going to be, because we hardly let people in. And this gives people a chance to see that we're really not as bad as people think we are. And we all had the same common goal, and that's to be really good at our schools, help the youth out, and help people get to college and help each other out. That's what I think people should get to know. And the one time, or one of the times that I did get a chance to meet Kobe Bryant and we were sitting down talking, his thing was, a lot of the people don't like me because I'm a winner. And that falls into us. People don't like us because we're winners. The bottom of this thing is crowded. It's not crowded at the top. And people want to get to the top. So they have to try to maneuver to see how they're going to get up there. But if you winning, it's tough, and you got to have thick skin, because it's coming at you all type of ways.
Yeah, maybe we'll do an uncensored episode of all the emails, texts, and phone calls.
Are you talking about from the parents? I'm sorry, which one are you talking about?
We could do
parents or people. I'm sorry, which one?
We could do a media episode. We do.
When I called, I was talking to Gordon. I said, Gordon, man, I gotta get Rob and Ty and myself together so people could understand who we are and what we're about, because it's a lot of bad perception out here. You know what I'm saying? We're not friends. We against each other all the time. But at the end of the day, we all got one thing in common. We want to help kids. And we want to help everybody in general. And I think we need to do this more often, to be honest with you, because guys are fall in line. They're falling suit. They'll fall right in and understand where we coming from in the past. You know, like sometimes I don't know how to voice myself. Ty know how to do it. Rob know how to do it. So we're a great team. You know, they calmed me down a few times. That's why I calmed down a lot over the years. You know what I'm saying? So people always say, man, you don't listen to nobody. No, I took their advice. You know, I took their advice and you know, I calmed down a lot. I calmed down a lot, and it helped me. And it helped me win a state championship, city championship. And I changed a little bit. You know, I changed a little bit. And I just want to say thank y'all. I appreciate y'all for having them talks with me. I am a knucklehead at times, but, you know, but I listen to y'all.
Well, since I'm the oldest, I get to go last. Yeah. I tell people I am, first of all, Gordon, appreciate it. Just like Rob and Nick said, I really, and Nick, I appreciate you for calling me to get on this. You know, because God knows I can only dust and clean so much. There's only so much I can dust and clean. But, you know, when we think about it, I've been in this thing for a few years now, as has Nick and as has Rob. And people always say to me, well, Tyrone, when are you going to give it up? And what I tell people all the time, I'll give it up when I become irrelevant. I don't want to be around here irrelevant. I don't want to be irrelevant. And my relevance now is really just continuing to compete. I think just like Rob, and I'm sure just like Nick, and I know I talk about it with my team, every year when we start practice, the first thing we talk about are the goals. And we never talk about winning the conference. We never talk about it. We never talk about winning the regionals. We never talk about it because that's ultimately not what the objective is. But we also probably talk about how to get there. And the one thing, I am better as a basketball coach because of the battles that I've been through with the guys that are on this cast right now. There's some other guys out there, you know, Coach Oliver, who I fought with him literally every year in a regional and in a sectional. He's made me better. I look at things that Simeon does. I tell people all the time, he's the carrot and I'm the rabbit. I'm chasing him all the time. We never seem to catch it. We just keep chasing it. We just keep chasing it. But one thing I know, that if we keep chasing the carrot, we're going to be good. And then there's Nick. He makes us better. He makes us work harder. You know, I heard, you know, he told a big lie on his last podcast.
I can't wait.
He went on to say he had a podcast. He told somebody he had a better shoe game than me. A complete lie. But we won't even go into that. But I just, like I said, I just enjoy coaching. I think you said something, Gordon. Basketball brings us all together. It's obvious when you look at the Bulls documentary. There wasn't a car driving down the street in Chicago. Everybody was at home watching it. We wish for those days again. We hope everybody stays safe. Don't drink any Lysol or any of that stuff. It's not good for you. Don't ingest any of that. And this was fun for me. I enjoy it. I enjoy being around people that I respect.
Well, gentlemen, it's been an honor. I think that if we learned one thing today, it's that we have to do this again when your significant others will allow it, because this was just a lot of fun. And I just want to say thank you individually, because there's a lot of people that are going to be, I think, better people from hearing this from you three, because you each carries so much weight in the community. So thank you so much, and look forward to next time.
Appreciate it.
Thanks, guys.